Welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial, we're going to be creating this amazing website for wristwatch. And then as you can see, the watches here are fully animated, and then we have this nice animation going on the right hand section of this, and you can as well click on each of this wristwatch so that you can navigate to the proper section. If you want to show your support for this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button. To follow along with this tutorial, I've made the files as the wristwatch and also the logo available in the description below. After downloading the file from Figma community, and once you open it, you're going to get this. So we're going to add a new frame. I'll be using the MacBook Air, so we can zoom in and then select the MacBook Air and then select then pick on this color. This is going to be our background color. So the next thing I'll do is I'm going to add a layout grid for this. So once you add that, I'm going to change that to columns. So for the column setting, this is going to be 12, and then for this I'm going to use center. Here I'm going to make that 64, and then for the gutters we're going to make that 32 here. So after doing that, you can zoom in because of our background. I'm going to click on this to add a ruler. So if you don't have these points here, you can click on the Figma icon, go to view, and then make sure that the ruler is selected. So now I'll drag this and then drop this here so I can zoom in so that I can place this here correctly. I can also drag that here and then point to this here. So I'm going to zoom in, drag this, and then make sure this is aligned. So now I can click on this screen here and then hide this layout grid. The first thing we want to create is the navigation. So I'm going to click on the icons and logo. I'm going to select this logo and then these icons here. So Control C to copy, and then if your Mac is Command C, select this and then paste these icons here. So I'm going to click on this logo and then drag this to this point here. And then for these icons, I'll click on that and then take this to this part here. So we want to add a text for home. Sorry, this is going to be men, and I'm going to adjust this to 16 for men, and then it's going to be medium. So I'm going to Control D to duplicate, and then I'll also change this to women here. So this, I want these two letters to be capitalized, so I can select this and then come to this option here for the text, and I will make sure I'm selecting this uppercase, and then these two are capitalized. Now I'm going to select these two items, press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. The spacing between them, I'm going to make that 32. So I'll come in here. Also, I think this is already in an auto layout, so I'll make sure that the spacing between them is also 32 here. After changing that, these two items, I can select this two and then also press Shift A so that they're going to be inside an auto layout. So I'm going to click here to make sure they are aligned. So but the spacing between them, I'm going to make that 64. Now I have this here. So we want to add another text here. So this is going to be Cyobalia. So now make sure that the font family we're using is Poppins. So it's already set if you downloaded the file. So I'm going to click on this, and then we're going to change the size of that. So we're going to make this 24. Now I'm going to use semi-bold here. So after that, I'm going to select part of this inside. So you're going to select, make sure you're highlighting just the three items here. Just the first three letters, highlight that, and then I'm going to click on this and make sure this is the color. So I'm going to do that for the last three, highlight the last three, and make sure I'm changing the color. So this gives us this effect. So the next thing we want to do here is to select these three items and then put them in an auto layout by pressing Shift A. So we have this our item here. So make sure this is at the center for the auto layout. Drag this to the end here, and make sure you're doing the same to this. Drag this to the end. Now, for us to solve this issue here, instead of having these numbers, change that to auto. So now you see we have this touching here. Then the next thing is we want to make sure that this is at the center of the screen. So we're going to add an absolute position for this. So click on the plus sign. So now we can adjust this and make sure it's at the center of the screen. Once we are done with that, the next thing we want to do here is to add another set of text. So I can select this here and then add a text, Kai. So I'm going to remove the I here. So after having this, we're going to change the size to 60 here, and then this is going to be bold. So now, after changing that to bold, I'm going to drag this here. So we're going to duplicate this again, and then this time I'm going to add Mando edition here. After adding this, we're going to highlight this here and then make sure that this is medium, or we can make that regular. Then here we're going to make that semi-bold here. So we have Mando edition. The next thing we want to add is the paragraph text. So you can go to your icons. We have the paragraph text. I'll just copy this and then go to page 1, select this screen, and then paste that here. So now we have our text here. After that, we are going to add 2 buttons. To do that, I'm going to use the frame, come in here and then drag that here. So I'm going to click on the plus sign for the fill. So for this particular button, I'm going to make that 300 here. And then I'm going to add a text in here. So this text is going to be shop now. Then I'm going to add a hyphen and then the price of this wristwatch here. So after that, we can now change this from regular to medium, and we can increase this to 18. Shop now. So after having this button, I can select this text and then align them with this since it's in a frame. So select this button and then duplicate this button here, then drag it here. So now we're going to adjust this here to this point. So I'm going to make that 180. So this time here, I'm going to add a text, discover more. So I can come in here and then also align this item. So once this is aligned, we cannot have 2 buttons of this type here. So I'm going to click on this frame here and then minus the fill, but scroll down and then add a stroke. So here, change the color. So but you can do that from the selection color here. So that will change the 2 texts at once. So here, when you do that from selection color, it's going to change the text and also the border radius. So now we have this section of the website. So let's quickly arrange this. I'm going to select these 2 items here and then Shift A to put them in an auto layout. After that, I'm going to select also these 2 items, Shift A, I put them in an auto layout. So I can just quickly name this here to just BTN groups, BTN group. Then let's try to adjust these items here. So now I'm going to use this as my reference point here. So I'm going to drag this and then we're going to have this here. So now I'm going to select these 3 items and then press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. After that, if you want to adjust this, we can go as far as 40, you can go 45, but I'll stop at 48 for this. Now we have this section of the website, so we can align that here. So the next thing we want to add here is this other side here where the watch will be arranged. Now I'm going to click on this here and then add an ellipse. So this ellipse, I'm going to drag that here and then you can make that of any size. So here mine is 357. So this time I'm going to change the color to black, make sure it's black, then add an effect here. After adding the effect, select that and make that a layer blur. So for this layer blur, we're going to make that 250 here. So we have this blur effect here. So I can just try to adjust that here. And then I'm going to just close this. After locking that, the next thing we want to introduce here is the wristwatch. So we go back in here and then we have item 1, 2, and then 3. So you can just easily highlight them. Copy and then come back to page 1. So I'm going to select, I can pick this now and then delete this. I don't need this again. Then paste this here. So we have 4 watch here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I'm going to do now here is I'm going to make sure I'm changing the size of this to 492. That's what I need for one of the wristwatch. Then put this in an auto layout by pressing Shift A. After doing that, I can just say rename that to watch collection. After that, let's change the direction to this here. Because of our animation, that's why we're changing that to this direction. So I can scroll down to this. So this time the watch is already in this frame. So let's adjust this a bit here. So we have the first watch, the second, and then the third watch. But we only want one watch to be visible at a time. So to do that, I'm going to open this here. And then we have watch, this watch 1 and then watch 2. So what I'm going to do here, let me double click and then change this to watch 3. Okay, watch 2. So here we have 3, 1, and then 2. So now let's just rearrange this here, like a countdown. So we have 3, 2, 1. So this time I'll click, hold Shift, and then select this other one here. So for this 2 wristwatch, let's change the size to 300 here. After changing the size to 300, you can go back and click on the watch collection and then make sure that this is aligned to center. So now the next thing, we're going to add spacing between them. So I'm going to use, let's say, 200 to see. Okay, now this is no longer visible. That's the third, and then the second and the third one are no longer visible here. So if I select this, you see we have our first watch, second watch here. Right now, the next thing we want to do here is I'm going to lock this temporarily. That's this watch collection, because we want to add some indicators here. After locking that, I'm going to click on this and then select an ellipse here. I'll zoom in and then hold Shift, then create an ellipse. So I'm going to make this 18. So once I make that 18, I'll come in here and then Control D to duplicate again. So this time hold Shift and then Command or Shift and Control. So you're going to have this small ellipse in here. So now select that and then change the color here. So this first one, make sure you delete the fill and then add a stroke to that. The stroke, change that to white. So now after doing that, the next thing we want to do here is we want to group these 2 items. To group them, I'm going to hold Shift and then select this other one, Control G. So here I'm going to change that to item 1. So I'm going to do Control D to have item 2, Control D to have item 3. So now here for this first item, I'm going to just rename that to active item. So now for this other item, I'm going to open that here. For this second ellipse, I'm going to make that hidden. I'll do the same for this. I'm going to make this hidden. That's this other section. So now this item and then this item, we can change the color back to maybe white. Close that here. So why we're doing this is for the animation, so that we can easily animate these items. So now I'm going to select these 3 items and then press Shift A. So the spacing between them, I think 20 is great. So I'm going to align them to this wristwatch here. Okay, this is at the center of the wristwatch. So now we need to just include the social media icons now. So let's go back to our icons and then select socials here, Ctrl C, and I'm going to bring them back to the page 1. So I'll select this and then paste this here. So these socials, I'll bring them here, and then I'll say follow us on, I'll add a text, follow, okay, let's see, follow us on. So I'm going to click out and then drag this here. This is going to be 12. So follow us on, then we have the socials there. So this is going to be medium, and then you can select this and then this together. Press Shift A to add them in an auto layout. So I'm going to drag this here. So right now you can change the color to gold, but we're keeping white for this tutorial. The next thing is to add the mouse icon here. Now to do that, let's come back in here and then select this mouse. Go back to page 1. This mouse will be animated, so I'm going to paste that outside here. So let me drag that and then drop it outside here. So let's zoom in. But before we do that, let's check the height of this. So for me to check the height of this, I'm going to create a rectangle and then just manually, okay, the height is 46. So I'm going to come in here and then drag this to add a rectangle of height 46. So I'll say 46. Then the width of this is going to be 10. We're going to delete this, so for now I just need the width. So now let me just make that maybe 4. So that's going to be simple. So click on this mouse, right click, and then bring to front. Okay, so good. Select the mouse and also this. Then use this icon to make sure that the mouse is at the center. So now let's push this mouse to the beginning here. So now once you're done with that, select these 2 items. You can group them and then convert that to a component. Once it's converted to a component, click on this here to create a variant. If you're not familiar with components and variant, I have a tutorial that will be linked below. To support this channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button. So to prototype this, I'm going to make sure that this mouse here on the second one is at the end here. So you can push it here to the end. So let's select this and then hit the prototype here. So click on this, drag this and point to the second one here. So this is going to be after delay. And then let's make this 400. And then this is going to be smart. And then it's going to be set that to slow here. And we're good. So we're going to click on the second one and then return the favor to the first one here. So this is going to be after delay. I'm going to change this to 400. And then it's going to be smart, slow, and then we're good. So I'm going to click this here. So right now, I'm going to select this icon here, go back to design, and make sure that the opacity is 0. That's for this rectangle. Make sure that the opacity is 0. Please don't delete it, just change the opacity to 0. So right now we need to add the mouse to the screen here. So we can click on assets and then drag the mouse to this point here. After doing that, we can now hold shift and then select this group. We can now put that in an auto layout by pressing Shift A. So after that, we can try to center this and then drag this to make sure it's aligned to this end here. And then also I'll zoom in and make sure that this is also aligned to this end here. Then let's change the spacing between them here to auto. So we get this. And then this is aligned. So we want to add a logo here. Let's go back to our layers and then go back to our icons. Double click to select just the logo here. Ctrl C to copy. Come back here and then select this icon and then paste it. After pasting this here, I want to increase the size of this, so I'm going to hold Alt and Shift to just increase this. You can make this as big as you want. So I'm going to bring this to the end here and then try to rotate this, because we want this to align to this point here perfectly, somewhere here. So after that, the next tweak here is to just change the opacity. So for this, I'm going to make that 10, and then this is going to be 10, and this is also going to be 10. So for the stroke also, it's also 10 here. So we're done with this section. Now we want to add some item at the center here. So I'm going to add a text here. This is going to be Kai Sign Classic, and I can click on the three dots here and then make sure that this is capitalized. After that, let's change the size to 24. Once it's 24, I'm going to use a semi-bold here, and I'm going to bring that to this point here. So we want to rotate this text, so you can do that manually like this, but I'm not a fan. I will just come into the angle here and change that to 90. We now have this text here. So at this point now, I want us to drag a ruler from the top and bring it somewhere here so that we can align this wristwatch. So let me double click on this. Let me do that. The wristwatch is locked, so I can't move that. So I'll drag this here, and also for this, I'll push this here till we get to this point here. Okay. So now I'm going to add a rectangle here. Drag that and then make sure it's just aligned with the button here. So I'll drag this here again, and I can change the width of this to something even, let's say 8, or you can use 10. And let's change the feel of this to this color here. So these two items, I'm going to hold Shift to select the two items, Shift A to put that in an auto layout. And I think I'll just increase the width of this. Let's make that 10. Yeah, okay. So now I'll select this and then center this here. So this is now at the center. So we want to add some labeling here. To do that, I'm going to select the pen tool, and then here I'm going to click somewhere here. You can press Shift so that you get a straight line. So Shift here, and then I'll click Shift and I'll select this here. So once you're done, you have to go and click the Done button here. Then change the color to this golden color here. So now we want to change or label this. It's a crown here. So let's see the size of our text here. I'll reduce that here to 16, and then I'll just align it to this here. So now I can hold Shift to select this and then group them. So I'll rename the group to crown. So the last labeling we need here is, I'm going to select this pen tool here and then click here and then drag this down here. Then click on the Done button here. So I'm going to add another text here. This is going to be calf skin here. So I'm going to select this, and then we can align this here and then group them, Ctrl G to group. So I'm going to double click and then push this here. Okay, still in the group, so I can just rename the group to skin. So let's see if this is aligned here properly. So I'm going to push this, select this, and then push it somewhere here. So now we have our items here well labeled. So the next thing, we want to arrange some wristwatch here. So I'm going to go back to my icons and then go to watches, sorry, not icon. I'm going to select these three items again, Ctrl C to copy them, bring them back to page 1, and I can paste them here, Ctrl V. So let me take them outside here. So we can resize them to 45 each. So I can zoom in here. You see we have our wristwatch. So press Shift A to put them in an auto layout. So after that, Let's change the spacing between them to 16 each, so we can zoom in here. So we can rename this to list, okay, nav list here. So once we have this, let's change the direction to this. So we have our items here. So one thing we want to add here is an icon. So I'm going to add an ellipse here. So this is for the first item. So let's change the color so that we can be able to differentiate that. So this, I'm going to make that okay. 10 by 10 is okay. I'm going to put that here. So I'm going to select this item and also this, and then Ctrl G to group them. So I will name that nav list. So we can now drag these items, the item here. So now it's now inside our icon here. So we can just align it to this line here. So now once we have this, we can, because of the animation, I can duplicate this and then drag this here. To make sure that they align, I'll duplicate this again and then make sure it's aligned with this. So we have these items, but this is the first screen. So I only want, this is not going to be visible. This is going to be hidden. This is going to be hidden. Sorry, okay. This one is not going to be hidden. That's the first one. It's just this last two. So this is going to be visible. So now we are done with this design. So let's see if we have anything left here to fix. Okay, we're good to go. So we can start with the prototyping. So to do that, I'm going to select this screen here. So let's say this is Kai Ubalia here. So that's the name of this screen. So we want to convert this to a component. So I will click on this here to convert that to a component. Once we've done that, we can now add variant 1, and then I'll select this again, add variant 2. After doing that, the next thing we want to do here is for this watch here, we want to change this to the second watch. So now we locked this watch from the beginning. So here I'm just going to look for the list of this watch here, so watch collection, and then I'm going to unlock that. After unlocking this, so from this you can just open the watch collection here. So this is watch 2. I'm going to drag that here. You see, we now have watch 2 at the top here, and then watch 3 is now second. So change the size of the watch 3 to 300, and then for watch 2, this is our main watch now, so this is going to be 492. So it's going to perfectly take up that space. Then for the icons here, we can now come in here. I think I'm mixing up the wristwatch. So I'm going to click on this, just drag this here to make sure that this is the second watch. And you're going to come in here and do the same. Double click, make sure that this is the second watch here. So here, I'm going to click on this group here. Now, this ellipse is going to be hidden because that's not the first one. So I'm going to turn on the second one. This is the active item. So we're going to do the same for this. We click in here and I'm just going to open this here. That's this frame selection. So you're going to open this. After opening this now, this active, I'm going to bring that to the second item here. So I'm going to come back in here. So we've set that already. So you can align this, our labels here. So I'm going to select this and then push this here to align to this so that the alignment will be properly. So now we're also going to select this label here and then align it here. So after that, we're going to jump to the third one here. So make sure you select this. We're going to look for our watch collection and then unlock this. Then open this here. So we have our first wristwatch here. This is now going to be the first here. So now that means at this point now, this third one is going to be the last here. So for the second one here, we are okay, we're good to go. So the third one, so for the third item here, I'm going to select that and change that to 300. Then for the first watch here, we're going to convert that to 492. After that, this is balanced. So we need to take care of something here. We need to align this to the top. So I'm going to drag a ruler, bring that here to somewhere here. So I can just quickly align the wristwatch to the top here. So we might as well check, okay, this is not visible. So I'm going to do the same for the other ones. I'll drag this ruler, bring that here, and then make sure we're selecting this group here, and then push the wristwatch to touch this line here, so that it's going to be visually appealing. So we're going to do the same for this here. Drag this and then click on this group here. I think this is locked, so I'm going to scroll down to my collections. So to the watch collection, I'm going to unlock this, and then I'm going to push this here. So after pushing this to this position, now we need to also align this labelings here. So I'm going to do the same for this here. So I'll do the same for this here, same here. So you can as well click on this and then increase the size. That's the height. Then we'll do the same for this. Click on this and then push it here. So now we have our item properly aligned. So the next thing is to prototype this. To do that, I'm going to click on the prototype section and click on your settings. Make sure your device is set to MacBook Air. Then select the first item here. I'm going to zoom in, so you're going to get this dot on the first one. Click and drag it to point to the second item here. This time is going to be after delay. Then we're going to change this to 2000 milliseconds, and it should be smart animate, and then this should be slow. So I'm going to close this and then move to the third one. I'm going to select this and then drag this to point to the third one here. And then it's going to be after delay, and then if I scroll down, it's going to be slow also. So for the last one, we want this to move back to the first one. So this is going to be in circle without stopping. So I'm going to click on the last one, and then I can drag that and point to the first one here. So this is going to be after delay, and then I'm going to change this to 2000 milliseconds. So I'm going to check this second one if I did change that to 2000 milliseconds. So I did not. So I'm going to change this back to 2000 milliseconds. So after doing that, we want to use this now as an element. So I'm going to add a new frame here, the MacBook Air. So click on the assets panel, drag this and then drop it here. So let's click on design, try to align this to center. So I'm going to select this and then click on the presentation layer here. So now I think it's now animated. If you want to support this channel, please kindly hit the subscribe button. So the next thing we want to do now is to be able to click on each of this item, then we can navigate to the proper section. So I'm going back to my files. To do that, I'm going to zoom in here, and then you can click outside here, then hold Command Shift to select this. And then once you do that, go back to your prototype section. Then you want to drag this to point to the second item here. Make sure you're pointing to the second frame. So this time it's going to be on click, so you can select the third one, and then it should point to the third item here. So it's the same settings on click, smart animate. So we are back to the third item here, second item. Hold Command Shift, select this, drag this. Okay, we're already on the second item, so no need. So you start from the first one here, click and drag this here. So the same on click, then third one should go to the third part here. So on the third section, you can hold Command Shift. Okay, if I zoom in, we swap the position of this because this is our second item. Sorry, this is the third item. So I'm going to double click. I'm going to click here, click, then drag this here. Okay, so now this is the last item on the list. So to do that, now I'm going to select this here, and then we can now drag this to point to the first one. then click on the second one, drag it and point to the second one. So now I can now close this here and then go back to our prototype. So let me see. Okay, I can now click this is our first wristwatch, the second one, and this is the third one. So please kindly hit the subscribe button to show your support for this channel. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video. If you want me to create the other section of this website, please you can kindly indicate in the comment section.